What if I asked you to solve x squared minus 2x minus 8 equals 0?
Quadratic formula.
No. You could use the quadratic formula, but I think it would be a very bad choice.
Because it's negative, never mind.
What would you do?
Factor.
First off, you would notice it's quadratic because it has an x squared. Next, you would say, I got to have 0 on one side. I've got 0 on one side. Third, you should say, can I factor? Can you factor x squared minus 2x minus 8? Yes, it factors as x, x minus 4 and x plus 2 equals 0. We set each one equal to 0. And we solve. We get x equals 4, x equals negative 2. So if you can factor, you can solve. The whole point of this section is, what happens when you can't factor? What if I changed it very slightly, and I simply made it x squared minus 2x minus 9 equals 0? Well, we notice it has x squared, so we want to get 0 on one side. We did that. Can you factor? No. So what do you do?
Negative b equals, I've seen it before, negative b and then all over 2a, and I was trying it and it was difficult for me. But
So there is a formula that can be used to solve any quadratic equation. These are called quadratic because they have an x squared. The square root method doesn't work. What we did last time doesn't work. Why not? How would we do the square root method? Can you get the x squared thing all by itself? Well, I can, right? I could write x squared equals 2x plus 9. I could add the 2x to the other side. I could add the 9 to the other side. But when I do square roots, would you call that solved now? No, why not? What's wrong with it?
is there still an exponent? Or
No, if I were to do square root right now, I could do square root and get rid of that exponent. And I could do square root right there.
Because there's an x with the numbers, right?
There's an x on
Right.
both sides still, isn't there? When we say solve, we mean have x on this side and have just a number on that side. So the square root method doesn't work for this problem. All right, so what we're going to do, we're going to use this new formula. And the formula says if ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, and we have to have the rule a cannot be 0. How come we want a to not be 0?
Because then x squared would be 0.
Because then the x squared piece would be gone and we wouldn't have a quadratic equation anymore. So if ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0 and a is not the number 0, then here's the formula that will always give you the answers. X equals negative b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4 times a times c, all divided by 2a.
Did you expect us to memorize this? Just out of curiosity. For tests.
When it comes to the test, I will actually give you this formula. However, I suspect that after you do the worksheet today, if you write it down every time you do a problem on the worksheet, you'll memorize it just by writing it down half a dozen times. So, but I will give this one to you. I will not expect you to memorize this one. Okay, so for this equation, x squared minus 2x minus 9 equals 0. What's the a number?
X, 1.
A is just a number. It can't have an x in it.
Yeah, 1.
A is the number 1. What's the b number? Not 2. Negative 2. Because notice this has a plus up here. If this is a minus, this is going to be a minus. So b is the number negative 2. And c is negative 9. All right, so all I'm going to do is I'm going to take this big formula and I'm just going to plug in all the numbers. So I'm going to write down the formula. X equals negative b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And we plug in the numbers. What's negative b?
It's going to be positive.
It's going to be
positive because there are two negatives.
It's going to be positive. B is already a negative number, so another negative is going to make it positive. So negative b is 2, plus or minus square root of, what's b squared? 4, because if you take negative 2 times negative 2, you get 4. So that's 4 minus 4 times, what's the a number? 1 times the c number? Negative 9. All over 2 times 1. And all we do now is we simplify. This is 2 plus or minus the square root of. I would probably grab my calculator at this point. And I would go 4 minus 4 times 1 times negative 9. Calculator tells me that's 40. All divided by 2. Is the square root of 40 a nice number?
Mm-hmm.
It is? I don't think so.
No.
Square root of 40 is not a nice number. You're right, it is 6 point something. When the square root of 40 is not a nice number, we leave our answer just like that. Questions on that?
What if the square root is a nice number?
What if the square root is a nice number? Excellent question. We already solved that equation. We noticed that that one was easy to solve. It was easy to solve by factoring. The quadratic formula will still work. So let's see. Quadratic formula, x is negative b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. What's the a number this time? 1. What's the b number?
-2.
B is negative 2. And what's the c number? Negative 8. All right, so our answer would be, what's negative b? Nope.
Negative.
B
Oh,
is
it's positive
B is already negative 2, so another negative is going to make that a
Positive 2.
positive 2. 2 plus or minus the square root of, what's b squared?
4.
4, because negative 2 times negative 2 is 4. Minus 4 times 1 times negative 8 all over 2. All right, so that's going to be 2 plus or minus, I grab my calculator, 4 minus 4 times 1 times negative 8 is square root of 36 all over 2. Square root of 36 happens to be a really nice number. What's the square root of 36?
6.
6. So we get 2 plus or minus 6 over 2. Now what we do is we split it. And we do each one separately. What I mean by that is I do 2 plus 6. What's 2 plus 6? 8. And then 8 divided by 2? 4. And then I do the other one. X is, what's 2 minus 6? Negative 4. And negative 4 divided by 2? Negative 2.
So 2 minus 6.
How do you get that -2 again? I'm sorry.
I took 2 minus 6. That's negative 4. And then I divided by 2.
Oh, okay.
I want you to notice. Exact same answer I got last time. Which way was easier? Factoring or the quadratic formula?
Yeah, I think factoring.
I think factoring was easier.
Which one's more fun?
Which one's more fun? Quadratic formula is lots more fun. I don't know how you define fun.
I guess if you want to confuse someone who has nothing or doesn't know anything about math, we can use the second formula and just look smart.
If that's true, I suppose you could. All right, so let's take a look at number 1 here. Number 1. Do you want to solve that one by factoring?
Yeah.
My answer would be no, not really. Why not? Because I can't? I don't know about that. It will be long. Why will it be long? Because you have to do a lot. When this first number is not the number 1, factoring was difficult. So here's kind of my rule of thumb. If this first number is not the number 1, and I want to solve this equation, I always jump immediately to the quadratic formula. Because I think the quadratic formula is actually going to be easier than trying to solve where I have to factor where I have to go 3 times -8 and get -24, then break that up and then factor by grouping. I think quadratic formula is going to be quicker. So x equals -b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. In this case, a is 3, b is -5, and c is -8. And I plug all my numbers in. What's -b?
5.
5. Plus or minus square root of
25?
25. Excellent. Now, I'm going to strongly recommend that you always just take this and do it in your head and write down 25. Because what I'm going to see a lot of people do, if they don't, they're going to type it into their calculator like this, and they're going to write down -25. Why is -25 not the right number?
It's wrong.
Because it's wrong.
So it can't be negative when you square root.
It can't be negative when you do a square, can it? The calculator is very good about following the order of operations. What comes first, squares or minus signs?
Squares.
Squares comes first. So it does 5 squared, and then it does the minus sign. If you're going to type it into your calculator, you need to put it in parentheses. And people will forget that. So I highly recommend you simply do that in your head. -5 times -5 is +25, and write down the +25. Don't use your calculator there. People make too many mistakes with that. Minus 4 times, what's the A number? 3. The C number? -8. All divided by 2 times 3, which is 6. All right, and then I use my calculator. This is 5 plus or minus. Uh-oh. There we go. My calculator was doing something weird there. 25 minus 4 times 3 times -8. Calculator says that's the square root of 121 all over 6. Is the square root of 121 a nice number?
11.
It happens to be 11. If you're not sure, again, you use your calculator, and it is a nice number. So we're going to write 5 plus or minus 11 over 6. Final answer. We're going to simplify here. We're going to do 5 plus 11. What's 5 plus 11? 16. So we're going to have 16 over 6. We reduce that fraction 8/3. Or the other answer is x equals, what's 5 minus 11? -6. And I take -6 and divide it by 6, I get -1. There are my 2 answers. Questions on that one? I'm going to skip B and I'm going to jump down to C. Once once again, problem C, I would see, all right, I see that x squared. So that tells me it's quadratic. My choices are to factor or to use the formula. I see that this first number is a -4. That tells me I want to use the formula. However, before I can use the formula, I have to do something.
Subtract 5.
I got to have 0 on one side still, so I've got to subtract the 5. I've got to write it as -4x squared plus 9x minus 5 equals 0. To use the formula, you still have to have 0 on one side. If not, your signs are going to be wrong. You won't get the right answer. All right. X equals -b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. You getting sick of hearing that yet? No? All right. You write it down enough times and you will memorize it. But as I said, I will give it to you on the test. What's A?
-4.
A is -4. What's B?
9.
9. And what's C?
5.
Not 5. -5. Watch your minus signs. There we go. -5. All right. So this time we have x equals -b. What's -b? -9. Plus or minus square root of 9 squared is 81 minus 4 times the a number is -4. The c number is -5. All divided by 2 times -4, which is -8. -9 plus or minus, calculator time, 81 minus 4 times -4 times -5. 1. Is the square root of 1 a nice number?
Yeah.
Yeah, the square root of 1 is
1.
1. All over -8. All right. So, final answers. What's -9 plus 1? -8. And what's -8 divided by -8?
Positive 1.
Positive 1. X is, what's -9 minus 1?
-10.
So that would be -10 over -8. Two negatives make a positive.
2.
And I can take a 2 out. 5/4. Questions on that?
So basically, if I do, this is what I was trying to do on the homework. If I have homework and I got messed up, if it's a square root, basically, then you can do this, and it's -9 plus 1 equals -8, and then I would just divide the denominator by that answer.
Yep.
And then I got -10, so -8 divided by -10 is whatever.
Yep.
10 over 8.
All right. Uh-oh.
I don't like that.
Teacher's getting mean and throwing fractions in there. Stupid teacher.
Get rid of those gaps.
What do you do?
Get rid of the fraction.
Same thing we've done with every equation we've ever seen that has fractions. You get rid of those fractions.
16 is the common denominator.
16 is the common denominator. So what are we going to do with 16? Times it by everything. So we're going to take 16 times 3 over 8x squared minus 16 times 5 over 16x equals 16 times 1 over 8. Don't let the fractions freak you out. Get rid of them. What's 16 times 3/8?
2.
Well, 16 divided by 8 is 2. And then 2 times 3 is 6. That's going to be 6x squared. 16 and 16 just cancel out right there. Minus 5x. And over here, 2.
You guys subtract 2.
Excellent. And then you have to subtract the 2. You still got to have the 0 on one side. Okay? So don't let the fractions freak you out and scare you. Multiply by the common denominator, make the fractions go away. From there, it should be pretty easy. x equals negative b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. What's negative b? Negative b would be 5. That's correct, because b is already negative 5, so another negative makes it a positive. That's 5 plus or minus square root of b squared. 25. Negative 5 times negative 5 is 25. Minus 4. The a number is 6. And the c number is negative 2. All divided by 12. 2 times a. All right, so that's 5 plus or minus square root of, calculator, 25, I mean, minus 4 times 6 times negative 2. Calculator says that's 73. And then the whole thing gets divided by 12. The square root of 73 is not a nice number.
So we'll leave it like
So we leave it just like that. Questions on that? What about decimals? Decimals going to be a problem?
Pain in the rear end, man.
just a little bit longer.
Kind of a pain in the neck, but not really so bad. Let's see, we're going to have 4.23p squared minus 8.13p minus 9.15 equals 0. We still got to get the 0 on one side. So not that big a deal. Then we would have x equals negative b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. What's negative b?
8.13.
8.13 plus or minus square root b squared
66.0969.
66.0969, just like he said. Notice I didn't even bother with the minus sign when I used my calculator. Why not?
Cancel each other out anyway.
I know the answer has to come out positive. So I just type in 8.13 squared and take the positive answer. It's got to be positive when you square it. All right, so we write that down, 66.0969 minus, I might not have enough room here, it's going to be close, 4 times the A number is 4.23 and the C number is minus 9.15. And then the whole thing gets divided by
8.46.
2 times 4.23, which happens to be 8.46. All right, so calculator time, that's 8.13 plus or minus square root of 66.0969 minus 4 times 4.23 times negative 9.15. Calculator says 220.9149 all divided by 8.46.
Yeah, I tried one of those yesterday and I just couldn't get the right answer. Like, there was something I was doing wrong with the calculator work.
Yeah, there would be usually a calculator error, usually a minus sign off somewhere.
So close.
Something.
It was so close.
All right, now for this problem, I'm not done because this time it says find approximate solutions, round any results to the second decimal place. So it doesn't want me to leave this answer with this big ugly square root in it. It wants me to actually take my calculator and work it out. So here's what I would do. I would take 8.13 plus the square root of 220.9149. So that gives me that answer. And then what do I have to do with that answer?
Round it to 23.
Round, yeah, or divided by 8.46.
I'm going to divide it by the 8.46. divide by 8.46. And then the directions say round to 2 decimal places. So one answer would be x is 2.72.
Then you have to do the subtraction.
And then unfortunately I pretty much have to do the same thing again, except I have to do the subtraction.
Well, what was the answer again for
2.72.
2.72? I mean, what was the final answer that you got when you did 8.13 plus 220?
29.99320625.
Okay, 22.99 basically.
Yep. Then I got to redo it, except I got to put the minus in the middle. So I do 8.13 minus square root 220.9149, and I hit enter. And then once again I got to divide by 8.46. Calculator says x equals negative 0.80, rounded off to 2 decimal places. Questions on that? All right, here's my favorite thing in the whole wide world about the quadratic formula. These calculators, these big fancy calculators that we have, some of us have, not only are they graphing calculators, they're also programmable. So on my calculator a few years ago, I sat down and I wrote myself a little program. And I got lots of programs here. Actually, but the one I want today is quadratic. It asked me, what's the A number? So I could type in the A number is 6. What's the B number? -5. The C number is -2. And my calculator will tell me the answer is 5 plus or minus the square root of 73 over 12. 5 plus or minus the square root of 73 over 12. And if I need the decimals, if the problem tells me give decimals, the program gives me the decimals also. Now, unfortunately, that does not come standard with these big fancy calculators. I had to do that myself. So it's not there on your calculator.
So how are we going to do it?
How are you going to do it?
How do you do that? Like, you have to add that to it?
You're going to do it on the test just like this.
I get that. But like, what did you do? Pay for something like?
Pay? Heck no, I did it myself. This was years ago. I was giving a final exam, and I had 3 hours to kill. And this is back before we had laptops, back before we had iPads. So I had 3 hours to sit there and stare at people. So I decided I'm going to make some good use of my time, and I picked up my calculator, and the calculator has a whole programming language in it. So I'll show you what it looks like. So the first thing it does is says clear to home, which just clears the screen.
Wait, all right, you went to, I have to edit new, like.
Yeah, so you'd have to make a new one, and you'd have to type all this in. And then the calculator says input A, input B, input C, which is obviously telling the person type in the A number, the B number, and the C number. Then I told the calculator, what if somebody's trying to trick me and they plug in A equals 0? Can A be 0? No. So if A is 0, then the calculator just stops. It says you can't do that. Don't try to trick me. Then, if A is not the number 0, it computes this thing called B squared minus 4AC. It figures out the stuff that's underneath the square root. And the reason I did that is I need to know this 73. Is this a nice number or a not nice number when I do a square root? So then I have the calculator check. If D is a number 0, do some stuff. If D is positive, then check to see if the square root of D is a nice number. And if the square root of D is a nice number, then write out the answers.
Can I pay you just to like set this up for me?
You don't have that kind of money. So, for example, if it's one like this where the answers come out nice, my program gives me the nice answers. 3, -5, -8. It would tell me the answers are 8/3 and -1.
I'm pretty sure you can look it up on YouTube too.
I'm pretty sure if you go online, you can find programs that will do the quadratic formula for you. I will warn you that most of them especially for a problem like this one, won't write the answer that way. It'll just give you the decimals, which won't help you, because if I give you this equation and you just write the decimals on your test, I'm not going to give you any credit anyway. So it really won't help. But I made mine more fancy. I made mine so that it would actually give me the exact answers, because that's what I wanted.
Well, I noticed the little recording thing in your top right corner of your screen. So you just recorded like all the information you had in it.
I did.
Are you able to send me that recording?
It's on.
I post them. I post
You do?
them online. Every
You
one of
post this
them.
recording?
Every single class I've posted online.
All
They're
right.
all there.
There we have it then.
Anyway,